In 1506, during the Joseon dynasty in Korea, the 10th king Yeonseon was overthrown by opposing factions, making Yeongjong the new ruler. However, those who helped him gain power rise up against him, causing anarchy in the nation. Amid the chaos, a group of people is cruelly finished by guards who believe they have an unknown plague, but one woman manages to save her little daughter before perishing. The girl suffers the loss of her mother, but a guardian figure comes to her rescue when there are no more people around. At a temple, the prime minister tells everyone present about the recent appearance of a mysterious creature preying humans on Mount Wangsan. The creature has been named Monstrum, with royalty urged to stop spreading rumors about its veracity. King Yeongjong addresses the prime minister, claiming that he was the one who created the rumor to pressure the villagers and remove him from power. The minister advises him to reflect on his actions, as his wrongdoing and lowliness created the monstrum itself. Astonished by his confidence in speaking, the king talks about finding someone trustworthy to investigate the rumors and prove them wrong. In the forest, two clumsy hunters, brothers Sung Han and Yeon Kyum, argue about whether the beast is real or not. Sung Han falls into his own trap, and then they are found by Yeon Kyum's daughter Myung, who mocks her uncle's ineptitude. The trio spends their days quietly hunting and fishing, although they can barely scrape enough to feed themselves. Myung proposes going all the way to Hanyang town, but Yeon Kyum desists, thinking they are fine the way they are. Frustrated, she goes out to work in the fields, but is soon surprised by a stranger who asks to see the former commander of the royal guard, puzzling Myung. She aims her bow and arrow at the man, claiming that no one with that description lives there. Just as Sung Han arrives and surprises her, she accidentally shoots the arrow at the stranger, but he easily dodges it. By turning around, Myung discovers a handsome young man with whom she falls in love. The boy introduces himself as Officer He to Yeon Kyum, revealing that he and Sung Han were once high-rank commanders. He mentions the tremendous martial skills they used to had, but Myung can't believe that story. Suddenly, the king himself appears, leaving everyone perplexed. He and Yeon Kyum talk about their past, revealing that Yeon Kyum was the soldier who picked up Myung as a child, standing up against the king and disapproving his genocidal practice. The king's followers were confident that the girl possessed the creature's plague and should be eradicated. Still, Yeon Kyum explains that the plague is transmitted through simple sight, but in the wake of him being unaffected by the little girl, assumes it's all fake, and innocent lives disappeared for nothing. The guards take up arms against the man, branding him a traitor, but before attacking him, the king stops the attack, and Sung Han appears to tell the king that his brother's intentions aren't bad. Disappointed and saddened, the king spares their lives but orders them to leave the place and never return. Yeon Kyum offers his sword and leaves with his brother and the girl. In the present, King Yeongjong tells the former commander that the creature's rumor is getting troublesome and offers him his sword in exchange for returning. After a night of thinking it over, Yeon Kyum agrees to go all the way to Hanyang, much to Myung's excitement. Sung Han tries to convince his brother to desist, but he already made his decision, and as his second in command, Sung Han must accompany him. A cheerful Myung joins them on the journey, although both are annoyed by this. In the forest, shamans appeal to the creature's mercy with a ritual, but a girl about to steal their food witnesses how the monstrum kills them. Once in Hanyang, Myung is disappointed by how sad and dreary the capital is. During lunch, the group is surprised by her, as he calls them to see a crime scene in the forest. He shows the shaman's remains, with Myung realizing that there were signs of human combat at the scene. As the only witness, they have the thieving girl, who says it was all caused by Monstrum. Yeon Kyum is suspicious of her, so he follows her along with Sung Han. The two split when the girl encounters a mysterious man. While Sung Han loses track of the man, Yeon Kyum goes after the girl, knowing that she lies in her story. She says that, while the mysterious man was to blame for everything, the monstrum is still a real and dangerous threat, as no one dares to go to the mountain to search for resources anymore for fear of being attacked. The group gathers to analyze the situation, but they are interrupted by a man covered in sores creating commotion in the village, saying that the creature attacked him and his men. Before they can ask him anything, the man dies in front of everyone. Yeon Kyum and Sung Han return to the shaman's scene, finding one of them on top of some trees, wondering how it got there. Meanwhile, Myung and her investigate the man with Sore's body. The girl doesn't seem so disturbed by it, and her takes this as a sign of courage. She explains that being so bored at home, she would read any book she could get her hands on, acquiring knowledge in medicine to be a female doctor in the future. Out of nowhere, Myung tells her that her new mission will be to find a rat, leaving the young man bewildered. Yeon Kyum reveals to the king that the deaths were indeed done by a human. The only one who disagreed to this was the man with the sores, who claimed to see Monstrum, raising suspicions of his veracity and his relation to the plague. He also shows that they used a sample of the man's blood and transfused it into a rat, which died in only half a day, showing the plague's lethality. While the king thinks it's all a plot to overthrow him, Yeon Kyum assures him that Monstrum is real in the sense of danger to the population, so they have to find the truth. The king's council asks him to use the tiger hunters to investigate Mount Wangsan. He agrees but only asks for 100 out of the 700 available soldiers. Before anyone can object, the new search commander, Yun Kyum, makes his appearance in his old soldier's outfit, leaving more than one surprised. The soldiers begin to collect resources in the city, but this is difficult due to the villagers' poverty, who without their food, won't be able to survive that season. If they cannot provide enough, they would be used as temporary warriors, something that weighs heavily as they aren't experienced fighters. Sung Han finds a couple of boys that claim to be the only men in their family, so he drives them out of the place, but not without giving some food. On his side, Yun Kyum expels an old man, but he refuses in order to do his civic duty, not without much hesitation. Upon closer inspection, Sung Han notices an intruder in the ranks of the soldiers. Myung had disguised herself as a man to go unnoticed, as she considers herself good enough to fight. Yun Kyum tells her that this mission is not a game, but before adding anything else, the arrival of the Prime Minister is announced along with Jin Yong, the leader of the Tiger Hunters. They all start inspecting with no results, and when they discuss whether to continue at night, Yun Kyum decides to do so, as it is known that the creature tends to appear more at those hours. The hunters and villagers split up to cover more territory, and after seeing the old man separated from the group, Sung Han decides to go in search of him. He ends up in the middle of a rock wall but is soon followed by members of his group, including Yun Kyum, her, and Myung, the latter taking an interest in the site. Having been so small, she doesn't remember that it's the same place where her mother died years ago and where Yun Kyum rescued her. She only asks her father if she has been there before, but he doesn't answer. Her finds a footprint of a giant animal, which leads to a cliff in front of the rock wall. Elsewhere, the villagers lead the march to the Tiger Hunters, but suddenly the hunters treacherously attack the villagers, taking them off. They plan to set a trap for Yun Kyum's group by setting off a false flare as he climbs down the cliff to look for the beast. As they are about to pull him up again, the enemy attack begins, making it challenging to help Yun Kyum. Her and Myung manage to defend themselves, and during the battle, Sung Han manages to pull Yun Kyum up so that Yun Kyum can start fighting. The four mains regroup, leaving only them standing. Yun Kyum orders Myung and her to alert the king while he and Sung Han take care of the rest of the hunters. Both men fight bravely, but when the commander is about to be shot by an arrow, Sung Han steps in to save him, taking the attack in the arm. Both are captured and surrounded by the enemy. Jin Yong appears and confesses that the monster doesn't exist, and the rumor was created to eradicate the king's followers and army. The hunters also manage to subdue Myung and her, tying them together. Suddenly, Myung has a regression of the past, remembering how it was Jin Yong the one who killed her mother years ago. He also remembers her from when she was a child, but before speaking further, he throws her and her off the cliff, causing Yun Kyum's anger, and swears to Jin Yong that he will take revenge for that. The young couple manage to survive by hanging onto a rock during their fall, but with no chance of getting out of it safely. Jin Yong sends another flare to alert the king of the beast's existence, which will be an alibi to justify the death of all the villagers. A wounded lion-like beast emerges from the cliff, and although several arrows are shot at it simultaneously, the beast doesn't even flinch. It goes full force onto the battlefield, annihilating everyone. Sung Han and Yun Kyum manage to escape and decide to go to rescue the others. They find them at the bottom of the cliff, this being the beast's nest covered with his victims. They decide to go out and alert the king, but just then they meet the old man, who tells them that they should all smear some of the goo from the nest to go unnoticed, covering their scents. The old man tells them that the beast has terrible eyesight but excellent hearing, so they all keep quiet. They avoid the beast, at least for a while, until Yun Kyum tells them all to run through the cave passages. They fall into a river, with the beast no longer chasing them. Back at the base, Jin Yong tells the Prime Minister that Monstrum is real, even though the minister tells him that it was his intention from the beginning. He orders all the Tiger Hunters to go to the city and set it ablaze to overthrow the king. A couple of wounded villagers manage to reach the city, alerting the other villagers about Monstrum's attack. Jin Yong appears to start the fire, which gradually spreads to the point where it can no longer be contained. Guided by the old man, the group ends up in the drains of the royal palace, and from there, they arrive at the Jojin Hall, a giant prison. He explains that the former King Yeonsan loved exotic beasts, so he kept them locked up there. He used to work for the king as an animal feeder, and reveals to have known Monstrum since it was just a cub, initially calling it Sparkles because of its sparkly eyes. When Yeonsan was overthrown, they got rid of all the beasts except Sparkles, who was rescued by the old man, freeing him and fleeing down the drain, where he fed on rotting food and turned into a giant monster. Everyone is surprised when the Monstrum appears in the living room, but while everyone flees, the old man stays behind distracting the beast, making it remember its days as Sparkles. He leads it to a cage with the help of an old rattle, but ends up locking himself too so that the others can escape, sacrificing himself to the animal's wrath. The Prime Minister orders the Tiger Hunters to burn everything to eliminate the infected bodies, and everyone considers that the king has no more allies inside the city. The main group manages to get out to the royal palace, knowing that the Monstrum is below them, so they have to alert the king. Yun Kyum does this in private, but they are surprised by an ambush by the Prime Minister, who wounds the king with an arrow. Yun Kyum is surrounded, his allies captured, the royal guard is wiped out, and the beast is on its way to top it off. The monstrum breaks into the royal hall and eliminates the hunters, including Jin Yong, giving Yun Kyum and the king a chance to escape. Sung Han and Myung manage to escape by pretending to be sick with the plague, so they search for Yun Kyum. The beast manages to get out of the royal temple and begins to pick off all the soldiers, despite their best efforts to counteract it. Still, they subdue it with ropes and hooks while Yun Kyum meets the royal guard and asks them to escort the king to a safe area. The minister decides not to kill the beast but to use it to terrorize the people and thus seize the throne. Yun Kyum meets with the others, and they devise a plan to eradicate the beast, consisting of explosives and the Jojeon Hall. The beast breaks loose and continues its attack, with the prime minister fleeing as his men fall. The townspeople try to enter the palace territory, but everyone inside tells them to do otherwise, as Monstrum attacks everyone. They try to close the gates to lock the beast in, but just then, the prime minister appears, angry at such deliberate action. However, the people realize the minister's betrayal, so they turn against him and lock him inside the palace. Monstrum appears and starts chasing the prime minister, who runs to the top of the wall to show all the villagers below them. He tries to negotiate with the beast to leave him alone, but it lashes out and devours him. Yun Kyum appears to shoot an arrow at it, which hits it squarely, knocking the monster to the ground. Remembering the old man's words, Yun Kyum guides the beast to the main hall using its hearing. Meanwhile, Sung Han and her fill the place with explosives for the encounter. This gets complicated when Jin Yong reappears to initiate a fight. Yun Kyum and Myung meet at the entrance of the royal temple, barely dodging the beast's attacks. He tells her to go inside while he draws Monstrum's attention to fall into the trap. Sung Han and her are losing their fight, and when Jin Yong goes to finish Sung Han, her steps in, receiving the sword cut, but tackling the enemy. Myung appears in the room and aims at Jin Yong, but he uses her as a shield. The girl tells her to remember the day they met and takes the hint, with the boy dodging the arrow just in time. Jin Yong falls, and her confesses to Myung that he will never forget the moment they met. She shouts to her father that everything is ready for the explosion, so the commander runs one last time to jump into the Jojeon Hall holding onto a rope, making the monster fall. Han Sung lights the fire and everyone flees. Just before making it, the beast manages to extinguish the fuse's flame. Yun Kyum pushes Sung Han and gets himself locked inside the room. His brother just says goodbye and orders Sung Han to take care of his daughter. The beast hits Yun Kyum in the fight, but he reaches the explosives, knowing how his fate will end. Myung notices her father's absence, and when she asks to return for him, the explosion begins. The rain extinguishes the flames, and from the rubble, the beast closes its eyes for the last time. Everyone mourns the loss of Yun Kyum, and the villagers begin to re-enter the village with the king, seeing the soldier's noble sacrifice. However, Myung keeps searching through the rubble until finding her wounded father. They all help him free from his concrete prison and celebrate that they could finally get rid of the beast. The epilogue explains that the king moved his residence to another palace, not returning to the previous one until 3 years later. Time passes, and Myung and her, now a couple, are separated from royal soldiers Yun Kyum and Sung Han. The latter asks Yun Kyum how he managed to survive the temple explosion, and a flashback shows how he was helped by a pulley system that lifted him into the air just before everything exploded. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.